Jai Sachidanand. Welcome everybody. Let us start with the prayer. Namo Arihantanam, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Uvajjayanam, Namo Loe Savva Sahunam, Eso Pancha Namukaro, Savva Pavak Panasano, Mangalanam Cha Savesim, Padamam Havai Mangalam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Jai Sachidanand. Welcome, dear friends. Our today's topic is positive outlook. Well, it is fact that when we open news channel or when we unfold the newspaper, we are bombarded with so much negativity. That is why it was required to conduct a special session on positive outlook, positive attitude. And for this special session, we have very special guest, Ms. Rani Krishnan. It's a privilege to introduce her. Ms. Rani Krishnan is a public health specialist with US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. She provides training and technical assistance to countries in Africa and Asia on establishing public health emergency management programs so as to respond to large-scale health emergencies such as COVID-19, Ebola, yellow fever, cholera, etc. She has responded to health emergencies domestically and internationally and trains medical and public health professionals throughout the world. Her entire family was very close to the enlightened holistic scientist Dada Bhagwan and Kanu Dadaji. She has a rich legacy and she comes from a very noble descent. We know she is a daughter of Mr. Radhi Krishnan, who served as a scientist in USA for NASA. We cordially welcome you, Mr. Rani Krishnan. Thank you very much. Over to you now.
Oops. Thank you, Uncle. Okay, I'll get started. Okay, Jai Sachidanand, everyone. I hope you can see my screen okay. I am honored to be here today to present on a very important topic. Like Uncle mentioned, it is essential in this time of a lot of negative energy. And it really should, I think, after doing the research for this presentation, really should be something that all of us on this webinar strive for. I will say out of personal experience that I am typically not a positive person. So I specifically chose this topic. And what I can share with you is in doing the research, I found such profound meaning and purpose in the words that the holistic scientists have shared with us in this era. It is really, we are all privileged to even hear about this, hear these words, hear this message. And so the reason I'm telling you that is keep this in mind, because as we go through this presentation, just remember how blessed each and every one of you are, that you are interested in learning about these topics and really changing the world, starting with yourself. Okay, if I could just have a volunteer, if Dr. Yashodhara Kar could read the quote, please. Or if not, Uncle, could you please read?
Yeah, please. Should I read this?
Yes.
Our goal should be to look at everything in a positive manner. The world has both positive and negative forces. Sometime or the other, it will convert negative into positive. On our part, why not remain positive from the start?
Thank you. So this quote actually relates to the quote on the first slide, which is, man is a guest of nature. And what holistic science has said is that Dada has said our goal should be to look at everything in a positive manner, because nature inherently converts negative to positive. It may be on a much longer timeline than what we are typically used to, but the inherent nature of the world and the nature of Prakriti is to actually change positive into negative into positive forces. So thinking of that, I want you to keep this quote in mind as we go through this presentation, because one thing I would like to say, and will be emphasized on the next slide, is that positive and negative are names. Essentially, in material sciences, such as physics, there are two forces. There are matter, which has a positive charge, and it is expansive. So as you can see on the slide here, it's moving outward, upward. There is another force in nature, which is a gravitational force. So it brings in, it compresses. Think of gravity when you think of astronauts in space and how they have to cross that barrier of the atmosphere. So the gravity is what scientists have defined as a negative force or a negative charge. And in science, if you research, they're not giving a opinion that one is better than the other, just that these two forces exist in our world. And so physicists have kind of determined that matter is what we think of as having the positive charge, and gravity is what we think of as having negative charge. Okay. So like that, in spiritual science, there's also a concept of positivity and negativity. So last week, Mrs. Neha Gandhi, she did an excellent presentation, outstanding. If you have not watched it, please do. It's on the 17 levels of consciousness. This framework and paradigm was developed by Dr. David Hawkins, who is a renowned consciousness researcher, to the point that even in his books, all of his chapters are marked with what vibrational level that they resonate at. So here, positive energy is anything that is moving upward. So where we're looking at this peace, joy, love, enlightenment phase. Whereas negative is more lower, it is the greed, the guilt, the shame, the more primal and survival modes of operation. So in spiritual science, we think of positive as uplifting, having higher vibrations, and we think of negative as more like regressive. You're putting something, you're oppressing something, instead of expanding, it is contracting. And so we think of these as having more of a lower vibrational frequency, these types of emotions or energies. So in holistic science, the world has been really described so beautifully. Dada Bhagwan in the Aptavani has stated, in the world, the circumstances and the self, only these two stand in juxtaposition. Losing oneself in the circumstances means the perpetuation of worldly life, and being just a knower of the circumstances elevates one to godhood or God self. This sentence is what we mean by remaining in a positive attitude. It is not about emotion. It is about coming from a centered place of divine knowledge, where you are in an observational posture instead of reactive posture, where you're reacting and identifying with circumstances. So one should identify, sorry, just my screen, oneself with circumstances would tend to express one's target for the pure. In all other circumstances, one should stay rather superfluous. What this is saying essentially is that remain separate from the circumstances. So remember, we went back to material science and spiritual science. These forces of positivity and negativity simply exist. What holistic science is teaching us is, yes, these do exist. Don't get swept up in identifying with a positive or negative force, but rather stay in an observational posture where you are viewing both, because each one is intended to be here. Remember, we are a guest of nature. So this whole operation has nothing to do with what we perceive or how we interpret these circumstances. So let's talk about negative circumstances at the macro level. So these are kind of negative energies that are impacting lots of people. And this is just examples. This list is not all inclusive, but you have things like war, poverty, violence, terrorism, intolerance, and discrimination. And so many of our refugee crises these days are due to religious intolerance, evicting people from the land that they live on due to intolerance and discrimination. Epidemics, they are, as we've witnessed, they're only getting more frequent, more severe, and they have a global impact. Abuse of any kind, abuse of power, abuse of information, pollution, what we human beings collectively have done to the earth. As a species, we are no doubt the most destructive species compared to any other species living on Earth. That's what scientists, if it was any other species, we would consider it invasive. But as human beings, we have created negative energies which have resulted in pollution, environmental destruction, greed, famine, natural disasters, infrastructure and technology. Now, this is also, some of these also are good things. We need infrastructure, we do need technology, but when you use it for bad purposes, such as criminal intent or terrorism, then it becomes what we say is a negative or lower energetic level. So lower energetic levels are detrimental to humanity. That is essentially the description that we are going to go with for the remainder of the presentation. Positive external situations or circumstances on the macro level. Just as these bad things are happening, there are also people who are spiritual teachers, saints, who have come through all yugas, all parts of time. If you look at this quote, Krishna tells Arjuna that I am born in every age to protect the good, to destroy evil, and to reestablish dharma. So these good forces exist at the same time that many of the negative forces exist. So medical developments, things like vaccination, my work deals with this. I see the impact that vaccination has on, completely impoverished areas, which really, it's almost like going back in time when you look at life expectancy. What medical developments have done is just phenomenal for humanity at large. Technological advancements, just the fact that we are on Zoom today, able to connect from multiple continents. It is truly a positive circumstance or force. Social justice movements, any things that are against discrimination or fighting for equality in all of humanity is positive force. Art, creative, spiritual movements, education, of course, access to all of these things are positive forces. Scientific discovery, even things like natural conservation, thinking of new ways of developing materials to preserve nature rather than destroy. And all of these things, and again, this list is not the full list, but all of these things are uplifting. They are uplifting forces that elevate the energetic state of humanity. And so we consider these positive circumstances at the macro level. So one of the main, when I was growing up, I used to watch this show on TV. It was a children's program called Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And Fred Rogers was an educator. He was an educator who decided that, as he got older, he was going to reach multiple children at a young age and teach them about positivity and manners and things like gratitude. But when Fred Rogers saw scary things in the news, his mother would say to him, look for the helpers, because you will always find people who are helping, and creating a difference, even in times of darkness, in times of disaster. And so I think of this quote often because my job, it often comes or is a result of disaster or negative forces. Many of outbreaks are caused by, they are exacerbated by things like poverty, by war, by refugee situations. So when I think about how to keep a positive attitude, I always think of this quote because he was indeed a great man who believed that, there was good in this world. And so he really wanted to pass that on to children at a very young age. So here, I know this is a kind of busy slide, but this slide is from a blog called Wait But Why, author Tim Ferriss. And Tim Ferriss, he has done excellent topics, if you ever get a chance to look at the blog, on things like space, time, explaining very complex concepts. And one of the things that he has shown us here on this slide is that while there are negative influences, so first of all, he has color coded this to where, light blue is people with political influence. Pink is the artists, the authors are the Shakespeare, Mark Twain, Charles Dickens. So he's categorized these by different, by different categories, but he has not assigned, good or bad. He's just put their names on there. Because if you take this slide and if you show it in different parts of the world, some people may say some of these are good and others may say some of these are bad. So it goes back to that same concept that positive and negative are relative. But we all kind of know inherently in our hearts who are people that truly uplifted and helped humanity, whether it was through things like scientific discovery, like Galileo. Galileo, his lifespan was during the same time of true violence in England, Ireland, with Mary Queen of Scots and Oliver Cromwell. So at the same time that there was, bloodshed and wars, there were also positive discoveries, positive forces. And so that's what I wanted to share this slide, that everywhere, here again, we have Hitler, Mao Zedong, Stalin, all at the same similar time period as Gandhi at G, somebody who also uplifted and strived to uplift humanity. Same with Thomas Edison, the, inventor of electricity, completely uplifted humanity with that invention. So again, even in history, as holistic science says, there are always going to be good and bad, but why not focus on the good? So holistic science and a positive outlook. So we talked about material science, we talked about spiritual science. Now, when we speak about holistic science and a positive outlook, this is where my research and attitude, everything really shifted, because cultivating a positive outlook is all happening internally. And this concept that everything that happens is correct should be understood, embraced. But it should be internally, right? Because we are living in the world, you can't say, yes, I support war. Yes, I support violence. That's no, because these things exist in the world. No. What this says is that everything is happening for a reason, because what has been charged also has to be discharged. And so nature is just balancing those positive and negative charges. And that is correct and perfect as it is. That is what holistic science is teaching us, or saying to us. Everything that happens is an effect, and these effects are direct result of cause. Nature works on a much slower timeline. So here you have this tip of the iceberg. We are only seeing this in this lifespan, in this time period, with this perception, in these bodies and identities. What we aren't seeing is all the things that happened before, lifetimes ago, thousands of years ago, that things have been happening to us and to the world. And we don't know that full picture. We do not have the divine vision that holistic science has, that Dada Bhagwan had, where he sees everything. And so we react to this. We are not reacting to the full story. So nature is always balancing positive and negative forces. Where there are problems, there are also solutions. So as we said in that slide before, where you found problems and negative forces about oppression, people like Hitler or Stalin, you also found helpful forces as well during those times. So it is necessary for us, all of us, just to develop awareness about the positive things that are happening concurrently with the negative things that are happening in this world. If that is one message or theme that I can tie into this presentation, that would really be it. That requires a strong level of trust and surrender to really embrace that everything that happens is correct. Sorry. Okay. So let's talk about, we talked about negative forces, positive forces at the macro level. So now let's speak about positive outlook or positive and negativity at the individual level, at the micro level. So on this slide, we have our typical definitions of, I'm sure all of you have heard of these, analogy of how do we perceive the glass. Typically, if you have a glass half full of water, pessimists will say that the glass is half empty. Optimists will say that the glass is half full. So optimism has a hopeful and confident outlook about the future. Pessimism is defined as tending to see the worst aspect, or believe maybe that the worst will happen. If you think of optimism as happening as there's enough of water, pessimism is looking at it as there's a scarcity, we're running out. Realism is, I love this slide because it is looking at glasses half empty or half full. It might be half empty in terms of liquid, but it still has air, or the realist may say, yes, indeed, I observe a glass. So there are many different attitudes that people can have, or outlooks that people can have. I love this quote by George Bernard Shaw, a famous Irish writer. Both optimists and pessimists contribute to society. The optimist invents the airplane, the pessimist, the parachute. So again, these forces, these attitudes, these beliefs, positive and negative, they exist. That is natural for them to exist. And in this case of George Bernard Shaw's quote is, you need both, right? You need sometimes people to anticipate and plan for what could go wrong. So let's talk a little bit about three concepts here. I just want to define these out because these are what really shape our attitude and our outlook. A belief is something a person holds to be true. It comes from experiences, culture, background, education. You know, this is a lot about where you are socialized, how you are raised, is what shapes your beliefs. A value is a long-lasting belief about what is important. So it's a belief with a priority. Life choices are often based on values. So here, you know, if somebody, let's say, they value their career, maybe their life choices will then reflect that they are, that is what they prioritize over maybe perhaps family or other external factors. An attitude is how you view other people or circumstances based on your values or beliefs. So this is really where we talk about positive outlook, positive attitude. It's a viewpoint about people or a circumstance. So it is neither a belief or a value, but those things form and shape judgments. So we have either a positive or a negative attitude about things that are happening. So what does that look like when you are actually speaking? Because this is where I really thought, wow, I unconsciously say a lot of negative things without even thinking of the consequences. You know, negative self-talk. Okay, somebody asks you to do something that you've never done. Negative approach might be, I've never done it before. Positive approach might be, it's an opportunity to learn something new. I hear, and you know, at work, this phrase, the next phrase, it's too complicated, comes up a lot. Holistic science, again, says where there is a problem, there's a solution. Sometimes it's about the perception. It's about, a lot of times, it's your viewpoint that is complicated that's obstructing you from getting the true answer. So positive thinking here really requires, openness. Negative, I don't have the resources. Positive thinking says necessity is the mother of invention. And we see this time and time again. That is what is transforming our society minute by minute. Negative self-talk might say, I'm too lazy to get this done. Positive says, okay, I couldn't fit it into my schedule. So they acknowledge that, yes, I'm not able to do this, but let me re-examine and shift some priorities. So this list, you know, it goes on, but as you can see, what you see is a pattern between negative, where it's really a pattern of resistance. It's a fixed state, where positive is open, right? It's open to possibilities. It's open to, it's even open to feedback, right? Like, if you give me feedback, I can improve. Whereas a negative approach might be like, this person was hard on me, they criticized me, you know, they didn't help, they put me down, I don't want to work with them. So a pessimist, this quote here from Harry Truman, a pessimist is one who makes difficulties of his opportunities, and an optimist is one who makes opportunities of his difficulties. When this comes to mind, I really think of, there was a United States president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and FDR was born healthy, wealthy, had everything in life. And eventually he was at a Boy Scout camp or some type of event. and he contracted polio. And he became president, everything, but he contracted polio, so his body started to, lose muscular strength. He lost the ability to use his legs. He was a wheelchair. This is in the 40s, where there's not a lot of any kind of accessibility for people with disabilities, people living with disabilities. And so, he could have taken the attitude of, I have polio now, just forget it. I don't know, I don't want to do this. He could have used negative self-talk and just come out of that. But instead, what he did, he found that there are hot springs, natural occurring hot springs throughout the United States. And some of these were in a place in Georgia, Warm Springs, Georgia. And President Roosevelt, he was instrumental in moving to the South to access these hot springs to help give therapy to his polio. But not only did he do that, because he came and he saw that the poverty that people in the South were living with, they had no electricity. He created projects for the US government to bring energy, hydroelectric energy, to the southern region, which was completely different from where he grew up and what he experienced. Not only that, he built sites where polio patients of any income, any race, they could come to his, he had a hot springs, like a bath house type thing, where people with polio could come and get relief and that hot therapy on their muscles. And he also had, constructed all this stuff. So I think of that because instead of saying, woe is me, he took something that literally reformed his life and not only brought good to himself, but he brought good to so many other people. I just always think of that every opportunity, every circumstance is an opportunity to either choose positive or negative. So, health benefits of positive thinking. Certainly, there are many health benefits of positive thinking, such as increased lifespan, lower rates of depression, lower levels of distress and pain, greater resistance to illness, better psychological and physical well-being. There have been studies that have shown improved cardiovascular health, reduced risk of death from cancer, risk of death from respiratory conditions, risk of death of infections, and better coping skills during hardships and times of hardship and stress. So what I want to reiterate about this is that positive thinking is something that it may not inherently come to you, or when you are experiencing extreme pain, it is in no way saying blindly be optimistic and in denial. It's not saying deny the pain of yourself or others, but what it is saying is don't dwell on that. So one story I remember from when I was a child is that I remember being told, because I met Dada Bhagwan at age 3, and I had so many, I knew nothing as a 3 or 4-year-old, but what I did see is someone who was always happy, never tired, never cranky, never any of the, nothing, never raised his voice. And I remember just how much my father just loved him, because he was so drawn to that positive thinking and energy. But I remember that, my dad would tell me that, Dada was in a car accident and he was in some accident where he injured a leg. But instead of focusing on the injury of his leg, he talked that I still have another good leg. I still have arms. I still have mental faculties, you know. So what positive thinking is about is really about saying that, yes, sometimes there are painful and uncomfortable situations, but these are temporary and there is still good. There are still good things that exist simultaneously at the same time that this pain is being experienced. And so this has shown in science. A study by Dr. Lisa Yannick at Johns Hopkins University really looked at positive and negative attitudes. So they developed a survey where they defined, you know, positive as having cheerfulness, you know, more energy, less anxiety, and negative was the opposite of that. What they found was phenomenal, because they found that people with a family history of heart disease who had a positive outlook were one-third less likely to have a heart attack or other cardiovascular event within 5 to 25 years than those with a more negative outlook. This finding even held in people who were the from the general population. So they were positive, but they did not have a history of heart disease. And it showed that both people with the history and those who did not were, just by being positive, 13% less likely to succumb to heart attack or coronary event, just from maintaining a positive outlook. Again, positive outlook, not just for physical, but psychologically, there's a lot of resilience that comes from a positive outlook. So in 2016, the Harvard Chan School of Public Health did a study. It was about on population size of about 20,000 women. And it measured, you know, those who are optimistic had significantly reduced risk, not only of dying, but dying from multiple different causes: cancer, heart disease, stroke, respiratory disease, infection. And this was measured over an 8-year period compared with women who were less optimistic. So what, even in medical science, what we are seeing is that evidence is really growing that cultivating psychological resilience will make an impact on both mental and physical health outcomes. So changing attitudes, values, and behavior really can result in higher resilience to stress, to other factors and circumstances that emerge in our life and are many times they're inevitable and unavoidable. One thing that, you know, there have been studies done on what are behaviors that people who are considered mentally strong or resilient, how, you know, when they were studied, they found that there were sort of 6 behaviors that people kind of always scored high on if they were able to handle a lot of events all at one time. One was they moved on. So they did not embrace sort of a feeling sorry for or the victim mentality. Like I said, with President Roosevelt, he got the diagnosis, and instead of feeling sorry, he moved on and did great things. They embraced change. They welcome challenges. So see challenges as opportunities to learn, to grow, even to evolve spiritually. Sometimes things are so painful that really you can't see, you know, what could be positive about these things. That is really the time you should pay attention, because that is when your awareness can really strengthen and you can evolve spiritually in the way that you approach those situations that feel like they are so negative, there is no way out. They stay happy. They don't waste energy on things that they can control. So a lot of times we ourselves generate negative energy because we're upset about politics, or we're upset about, some bill that was passed, or something that is really external. It's at that macro level, and it's not something that we can control. You can always advocate and do things to make the world a better place. It doesn't mean sit at home and not do anything. What it means is understand where you can impact change. And we will talk about that in the holistic side of this, where versus where things are not in your control. People are mentally strong actually rate higher as having values of kindness, being fair, and not afraid to speak up. And because of that, they don't have resentment, regret, because they spoke up and did the right thing. They're willing to take risks, calculated risks, obviously, weighing all of the pros and cons, but they are willing to expand. Remember, positive energy is expansive, negative energy is contracts. And so they are willing to take risks, and then they celebrate other people's success. So they are not holding on to that only I can be successful, nobody else. They realize success, can happen to anyone. And instead of wishing ill on them, they wish people well. So these are all things that we can strive to adapt into our behavior if we don't already have them, to help us cultivate psychological resilience. Okay, so now I'd like to just pause, do a discussion question. And Uncle, if I could get either yourself to read the question, and then as a group, we will discuss what our feedback would be.
Okay, dear participants, it is now your turn. Read this question and head and elbow. The other children tease him instead of helping. He is very upset by the events of the day and declares he does not want to go to school anymore or play with anyone. How would you apply a positive outlook in this situation? What would you say to him? My God, very common situation. It is really a very common occurrence. So may I have to invite you please open up and share your views. How will you deal with this situation?
Jai Satchidanand, everybody. I'm not going to go on camera because it's a Saturday morning and it can be scary. So this is a great one. Me having raised 3 sons and lots of nieces and nephews and lots of drama, I would have to say, if an 8-year-old came home saying this, which is very common in today's world, the culture has become very mean. So basically, sit down, look them in the eye, maybe do a gesture that is soothing to that child, like holding their hand or putting your hand on their shoulder, and genuinely just connecting on a eye-to-eye level first, so that they can see the compassion and the kindness in your eyes, because your eyes are really going to do your talking and your body language more than even the words that you say. Of course, they're going to be listening to the words because they're so wounded. But, I know how you feel. When I was younger, give an example of something that might have impacted me in that way. And share an example from the heart of how my own response was, so that they have something relatable that will bring you to their level. So first of all, bringing yourself really down, so that they see you as more an equal and somebody who is empathizing and truly caring for them, rather than someone who's talking down to them. And then just saying, if you really feel like you don't want to go to school, hey, let's take the day off tomorrow and let's go do something together. So just offering, validating their feelings and really being in with both feet about it. So I call it LEAP. I listen, empathize, agree that, oh, wow, it is a mean world. You know, people must be hurting so badly not to be able to offer something of themselves as a human in a bad situation. You know, not denying it or, you know, saying, oh, well, you should be stronger, but just accepting the feelings and validating them. So empathize and then agree and then partner. How can we make this better? So I think having a safe space at home, somebody that they can truly call their own, and giving them your strength, really, because an 8-year-old child, they're not going to know where to find those resources.
Right.
We have to, as the adult, be able to offer that to them. So this is some of the ways that because I'm, even when my sons are 29, 31, and 34, we still have things that come up. Okay. So Jason, and everybody.
That's really wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
Shaila. Would
Manish
anybody
Trivedi.
else like to answer? I thought that was a beautiful answer.
Yeah, really. Mr. Manish Trivedi also wants to answer this. Definitely, why not? Please, please.
Oh, please.
See, this is
Thank you
your
so
taste of positive response. Madam has already spoken of in the previous slide. The strong mind people, they will speak up. So please speak up.
Actually, ma'am, put a condition that he did not pass his maths exam, and I'm really very particular about mathematics.
Realistic
I would have
situation.
tried to make my son realize that he had been insincere in the studies. That's why he failed, because I am putting my efforts. I am providing you everything. There is a school who is guiding you. Hence, there is some insincerity in his part that he could not get good marks. And it is also, I think it is also important to teach our students how important mathematics is. If you did not pass in any exam, it's all right, but in maths, you have to pay attention. There is no excuse if it is mathematics. And in case a child falls and other children tease him, then I would say to my son that if other children are teasing you, it is their business. You must not be concerned about it. If you got hurted, then you must come bravely, and wherever you get first aid, whether you are in the school or you are in the playground, you come to your home, and if you are in the school, just ask your teacher to provide you the first aid. But you must not be concerned about those children who are teasing you, because they have not learned how to deal with the friends who got hurt. And you must also learn that if anybody else get hurted, you know how to be empathetic towards them, how to be helpful to the other people, never to tease your friends or anybody who is getting hurt.
That's
Thank
really
you
very
so
fine.
much. So absolutely, both what Shaila and Dr. Iti Dayal both said are positive actions, right? That love, empathy, listening, saying that maybe those kids are hurting, you know, those are ways you can emphasize a positive attitude. Okay, yes, maybe he did not pass his exam, although you helped him study. Work on the internal sincerity rather than punishing him for the consequence. There will be more math exams. There's always an area to improve, to grow. And so this is what we're going to talk about in the next section, which is about holistic science and positive attitude. But I thought both of your responses were outstanding because they came from a place of love, understanding, listening. And that's really what it is to be positive.
Excuse me, Rani ma'am.
Yes.
Mr. Manish Trivedi has to share something on that discussion question.
Oh, please, yes. Okay.
Yes, Mr. Manish.
Good evening, Jai Sachidan to everyone.
Yes.
Actually, I lost the connection, so I don't know what was the discussion going on. But I will just answer that question that if a child is at the age of 8 and he or she is fail in the exam, then we can provide such a positive thoughts, or we can penetrate such thoughts in a child's mind that leave. Don't think about your friends or school. See, I am your father or mother. Okay, I am everything for you, and no one is there to justify your certificate. Okay, I am going to give you the certificate that you know or don't know. Passing and failing means result doesn't matter, but how much you have tried, I know. Okay, and I really appreciate your efforts. We can say, and even we can give some chocolates and make that child happy that you tried. That's it, and I am happy with you. I am happy with this, and we will try better next time. Okay, we can train them to celebrate the failure. Okay, so next time when he will pass, okay, he will have that test of passing. Okay, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. And that's, I intentionally picked a child of 8 because I knew that you'd really have to explain positively, right? It's not like interacting with an adult. You really, because children, they see when you're insincere, they see when you're sincere. So you really have to not only, you have to exude that attitude, which all of you did in your answers. And so what I want to say is that overall, positivity can impact all of aspects of your life, your physical, financial, relational, spiritual, and your relationship with your own self, how you speak to yourself. In order to carry a positive action, you must develop a positive vision. And so being positive can not only change you, it can change the world. And want to talk a little bit about this quote, that everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. This quote is by Dr. Viktor Frankl. He wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. He created the field of positive psychology and this thing about the attitude that you have towards circumstances. What is the most impressive thing about him, though, is that he was in a concentration camp in, during World War II. He's Jewish. He lived in that camp and saw the most horrible things that humanity could ever, one human could witness and humans could do to each other. He saw all of it. And it was during that time of intense suffering, physical suffering, mental suffering, everything, no freedom, no, ability to go anywhere, is where he had this realization that even in this, I can find purpose to stay positive. And for him, it was talking to people in the camp, listening to them, because he was a psychologist by training. So he found purpose. And I cannot think of a better example of a positive attitude and what power it has, that we all have this same power within us, and that he, enduring such horrible, negative energies, and yet came up with this. So that's what we mean, is that wherever there's a negative, there is a positive. And, if there's, again, one kind of person that you could attach this mindset to, I would say it would be him. The aim of any spiritual practice is to exchange our negative energies of hatred, greed, violence into positive emotions such as compassion, gratitude, charity, and humanity. So let's spend a little time talking about the holistic approach to positivity. In research of this topic, what I truly found is that positivity is an internal process that if you become pure in your mind and you start to release some of the negativities, we'll talk about that. Your speech, your body, all of these things will also become positive. The world will also become positive around you. But it needs a holistic approach. We should be positive not only in our thoughts, but in our speech, in our words, and in our actions. And so that's what we mean by holistic. It is embracing all of those aspects. So first, we have to understand what do we mean by negativity in the mind? So I think all of us are familiar with the faults that we all experience: anger, pride, greed, deceit, jealousy, attachment. But also things like opinions, strong aversions for people or circumstances, strong aversions or strong attachment or attraction to people or circumstances, to where you're not objectively viewing the situation. When we are ignorant that these things live within us, we often will defend these behaviors, these thoughts. We almost sign off on them, endorse them, as Dada would say, instead of observing them and looking at negativities that are projected in your mind are now also projected outside in the world. If you do nice things, but internally you think, I want everyone to see how nice I am, or I want to see that I'm doing more than my neighbors. I want people to see that. That is negativity in your mind. And that is going to still have an energetic impact out in your existence, even though you might be visibly doing good deeds. So even negativities towards oneself, self-doubt, self-destruction, self-hatred, all lower our vibrations. I used to, sometimes it would be like, oh, just think positive, things will happen. And I used to feel like, really, can that really happen for anybody? And that's doubt, that is putting a shadow on the greatness that exists within us. When we say, is that possible? When you start to doubt a possibility or your attitude or anything, that is when you are actually lowering that vibrational level. You're moving into the downward state. So these negativities that we have within us, they're projected in our outside world. They may create enemies, opponents, cynics, troublemakers. So Dada has said a mind which broods over negativity develops fault-finding habits, turns to a gutter inspector, a cynic. Wherever they go, they find out what is wrong with the people or situation. And none of us want to be that person. And we also don't want to be around people that think like that. So how do we transcend this? How do we transform? Because remember in that beginning quote, nature is always turning what is negative, positive, right? There's always an opportunity to change your outlook. And so there are things that you can do to strengthen these positive forces within yourself, and it will benefit your mind. Things like meditation. What we mean is like observing these negative thoughts instead of identifying with them or justifying them. Introspection, look at your internal garden first. Look at, if I'm criticizing someone, most likely that what I'm criticizing them for, I also do. And so instead of pointing the finger outward, tend to your internal garden. Remember, the one who suffers is at fault. That has been a constant theme through all of these webinars. Prayer. Prayer can, heartfelt, sincere prayer can transform negative into positive. We've seen this in presentations about Tri Mantra, about Nav Kalam, about all these prayers, but any prayer, Gayatri Mantra. I mean, they have done studies where the vibrations of that prayer, that ancient prayer, it emits positive healing vibration. So prayer can not only do good internally, it can do good externally. And really, it's going to be your one way to get to all these other things. Practicing gratitude. So yes, there may be things that you are dissatisfied with in your life or circumstances that you encounter that are negative, but remember, there's always also positive there. So journaling, thinking about what we are grateful for, that we have food, that we have our basic needs met, even practicing that gratitude will cultivate a energy within us that is positive. There's a particular Tai Chi technique. It's called the inner smile meditation. And this meditation focuses on each of your organs, and you thank that organ and you send love and positivity to that organ. And I do this from time to time because I love this prayer, because how many times do we sit and thank our heart for keeping it pumping relentlessly? How many times do we thank our lungs or our stomach for digesting all the food that we put in it? So even gratitude to your own self, your internal body functions and everything that is going on without your involvement, that is something to be grateful for and cultivates positivity. Focus on connectedness of all living beings, of humanity, okay? Compassion, doing compassion meditation, seeing yourself in others can strengthen that positive energetic vibration. Acknowledge the power of your thoughts. So here I have a quote, where the mind goes, energy flows. And my boss says this all the time. He's a very positive person. And we're always coming up, because I work in government, our budget is always at the whim of someone else. And so many times it's like, are we going to have money or are we not going to have money to do our work and our projects? My boss always says, don't even enter the thought that you will not have enough money for your projects. It will come, because where the mind goes, energy flows. And that is what we mean. That thought is powerful. It puts things in motion. So really understanding and being aware of the power of your own thoughts, but also other things that you consume, whether it's food, whether it's news and information, the words, the environment that you're around, the people that you're around. Be aware of those energetic vibrations too, because they are also impacting the thoughts. Believe in the impossible. Like we said, we have within us a force, a power of divinity that will grant us what we are asked for. It's like a genie in a, whatever you ask, it will grant that. Be mindful of that. So don't wish ill on others, or don't wish that people fail, because that will happen. And guess what? You will also be paying the price for those types of negative thoughts. Letting go is also extremely powerful. We said things that mentally strong people do, they don't hold on to that. There's a story that, they say that Dada has said, like, you're diagnosed with an illness. At that time of the diagnosis, you are ill. But after that, you are healing. You say, I'm healing now. You don't keep saying I'm ill, I'm not healthy. So even that is where we can look at positivity in our mind. Okay, well, So if you have a positive mind that is filled with love, compassion, charity towards other, wealth in all aspects of your life, health, financial, relationships, it will, these aspects will get attracted to you towards that. And so that will shape your external world as well. Remember, your thoughts shape your reality and contribute to the collective reality of all living beings. So not only what you project affects you, but it affects those around you. Next is speech, negativity in speech. I think we all really understand this concept, but any form of speech that causes harm to any living being is considered negative. So I've listed many examples here of lies, arguments, deceit, abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, insults, disrespect, expressing ill will to others, gossip. Gossip is one. So, I mean, one thing, I'm at work, next thing I know, we're gossiping, like it's everywhere. So you have to really be aware of judgment, criticism, hate speech. Also, talk towards yourself of like, I can't do it. This will never happen. This will never work out. Those are negative speech patterns. Disrespecting any religious leader or religious beliefs, holistic science has taught us that that is just an absolute way to bring negativity into your life. Speaking ill of others, alive or dead, very important and has been emphasized in many of the holistic teachings that we have talked about. So how can we transform negative speech into positive speech? So again, I want to say that this, of course, starts in the mind, in the mental realm, but you want to start becoming aware of negative speech and correct your mistakes. So if you find that, if you ask that I want to be more aware of where I have negative self-talk or where I'm unkind to others in my speech, or even where I'm gossiping about others or finding fault, please grant me that awareness to see it. So prayer becomes extremely important. Dada has given us 9 diamonds. This prayer not only impacts speech in this life, but lifetimes to come. And that's how powerful this is. But that is the kind of energy that we're dealing with when we speak. Set positive intentions daily to not hurt anyone through your speech throughout the day, whether it's indirect or direct. Affirm your positive values and attributes that are within yourself. We all have divine, good, positive, uplifting qualities. Focus on those rather than going into the negative. Even finding good things to say about other people instead of their faults. There's a saying, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. So practicing silence, if really this is a problem, take time to not speak, because this may be an area that you need to focus on that negativity. Really believe in the power of your words. So when I think of positive speech, I think of this quote here in this photo, embodiment of positive speech. So a Tirthankara's speech is heard by all humans and animals in their own language. It is believed that during this speech, there is no unhappiness for miles around the site. It's so powerful. And I feel all of us who have been with Dada have experienced this type of speech. I will tell you from a language perspective, I am South Indian. I don't know any Gujarati. I don't know any Hindi. I only know English and some Tamil. And I had grandparents. My dad's father met Dada, and my mom tells me this story because, he did not speak Hindi, Gujarati, anything. And he said that the soul has no language. It's not an obstacle towards this language, and this speech is universal. It's so positive. It doesn't have anything attributed to language, any kind of way of not understanding. If you look at saints like Ramana Maharishi, he didn't even speak. And he had Westerners and people who didn't, had never even been to India. And he communicated that through them with his eyes. Like Shaila said, your eyes will do the talking. Silence. So this is what we mean. Speech is so much more than what's coming out of our mouths. It is an internal thing that we have to vow to or aspire to transform it to positive. And finally, we'll talk about the last part, which is negativity in our actions. So negativity in our actions can be, engaging in arguments or conflict, taking sides, doing things that really reflect your like and dislike of people, insisting on your viewpoint and maybe, acting out on those things, maybe prejudices, those kinds of things, threatening people, blackmailing, causing fear. All of these things are negative actions. Any type of discrimination towards any living being is also negativity in your action, because you're not seeing the life force within that. Finding faults, judging others, blaming other people, even lying and getting other people in trouble with the law. I think of, people that have historically, that crimes have been committed and the wrong person is convicted because somebody lied and acted inappropriately. So that's what we mean by negativity in our actions. But really, a lot of this comes from failing to see humanity and connectedness within each other. Of course, self-harm also is negativity in our actions. Now, sometimes there are people with mental illness and things that, we are not saying they are bad, that they're doing bad things, but they need help to help transform these types of behaviors into positive behaviors. So some of the ways we can transform negativity into positive actions are avoiding conflict. This is one of Dada's main teachings, is wherever possible, avoid conflict. It really does breed negativity. Helping others, having a charitable heart and spirit where you see humanity in living things. If you see, somebody is hungry or thirsty, I live in the US, but I see people on the streets, I'll give them water, food, because even here we have people who don't have basic needs met. Pray, of course, seek elevated company, find purpose in your life. Whatever that is, maybe it's making other people happy, maybe it's, a gift that you have, like some people, poetry, art, think of ways to make the environment positive around you. Practice gratitude, practice looking for the silver lining in all circumstances. Observe instead of react to the situation. Also take care to do self-care. This is taking care of your physical health, your spiritual health, your mental health. These things generate positive energy. Of course, we talked about creating, people who are cooking and feeding others. It's a positive action. Practicing acceptance, living in the moment. Sincerely believing that anything is possible. So taking risks with that belief, put yourself out there, take risks. Protect nature, don't hoard, don't waste. These are also positive actions. These are things I will say, all of us, especially me, I'm striving for. I do not possess. So even with things like wasting, I'm trying to be more mindful of wasting water, Do I really need to buy all these things? Protecting nature. But always this starts with creating positive thoughts and intentions within yourself that you want to strive to be better each day. And where you do make mistakes, ask for forgiveness. You always have an opportunity to transform negative into positive. It's not a fixed state. So take advantage of those opportunities when you can to convert negative action into positive action. So one quote I love from Sai Baba is, kind words, good deeds, and prayers all cleanse your character and also make your aura positive and bright. This is the first step towards spiritual rising, and also first step on the direct road that leads to me. So again, I think this beautifully combines the holistic approach to positivity. Oops. Okay. One example I really loved in Secrets of Holistic Living is that charity begins at home. And again, positive actions are charitable ones. So we look at, and again, this is speaking for India, but anybody can relate to this because this goes for any individual that you may interact with on your day-to-day life. So housekeepers in India provide useful services such as cleaning, helping with cooking, laundry, afternoon shopping. And in the chapter on positivity, it asks, how much time do we talk to our housekeepers or smile or show them compassion or interest in their life, in their struggles? How often do we offer to help them? How much time do we spend with our friends saying good things about those people that are helping us live the lifestyles that we live each day? And the book also says the slums where we try to close our nose are the very places which provide essential services and support our lifestyle. So here we are judging, we're denying that this exists, but yet these are the people who we could not live without, really, and they provide such an essential service. So how many of us, whether it's people at the grocery store, all the essential workers that you think about in society, the people that pick up our garbage each week, we would not be able to live without them. But how often do we acknowledge them? Do we thank them, right? Do we see that they are also the same human life that's within us as in them? So that's where I thought this was so beautiful, that charity starts with home. You don't have to do lavish actions to make the world a more positive place. Another example in the book was about converting how nature converts waste into garden soil. Many of us do composting, but there was an enlightened industrialist, and he meditated on the impermanence, anitya of garbage, and could see that garbage and waste would change to garden soil under certain conditions. And he discovered that nature required about 40 days of silence and undisturbed work to produce this vital change. So taking our waste, our scrap, literally with heat, air, moisture, all bacteria, all of this thing, nature converts it to compost. We see this all the time. This is a classic example of awareness of negativity with a positive outlook. So who is converting all of this? It's not us. We may put things in the compost, but nature is converting. And sometimes those timelines don't match up with the timelines that we often put in our head, of like, oh, this shouldn't be happening immediately. Nature, everything in nature, it works on a universal timeline that's much longer. It takes much longer time and things that we don't know to create positivity. And so this example shows us that, yes, there is garbage in the world, but at that same time, that can be converted into useful compost. us. That's how we can transform negativity, awareness of negativity, and use positive outlook. So I want to just end my presentation. If I could get a volunteer to please read The Tale of Two Wolves, and then we will conclude.
I'll be happy to read that for you, Rani.
Oh, thank you, Shaila.
Yeah. I love this one, actually.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be Sihana Santan, but I don't know. The world likes wolves today, so it is what it is. Okay. The Tale of Two Wolves. One evening, a Cherokee, oh my God, I have to make it bigger, sorry.
That's
Elder
okay.
was teaching his grandson about life. A fight is going on inside me, he said to the boy. It is a terrible fight, and it is between two wolves. This battle that goes on between the two wolves is inside us all. One wolf is evil. He is angry, envious, jealous, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. He continued, the other is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The grandson thought about it for a minute and then asked his grandfather, which wolf will win? Wisely, the grandfather simply smiled and replied, the one you feed.
Wow. How wonderful.
Yes, I love this. I love this tale so much, especially being in America. And, of course, the Native Americans existed on this land and had this wisdom. So I love this poem because it does show us that there's a choice in how we respond and how we choose to live. Which wolf do we feed? So finally, Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, again, remembering that everything that is happening, that tip of the iceberg and the full iceberg, whatever happened for the good. Whatever is happening for the good. Whatever will happen will also be for good. And so I want to end the presentation on that. These were my references, of course, amongst many online as well. And with that, we can end and open for discussion. Thank you so much, Jai Sachidanand. I'm grateful for the opportunity to present to all of you today.
Thanks a lot, Ms. Rani Krishnan. Wonderful. Totally, thoroughly holistic approach once again, and profound research. My goodness, you covered so many streams all together. Physiology, spiritual science, physics, and so many other streams. It was really wonderful. I would like to invite Lala sir for making concluding remarks. Thank you very much. Mr. Manish Trivedi, loved this, excellent. Thanks for your remarks. Prajakta Bharat says thank you. Welcome. May I invite Lala sir to open up and please.
Yes, I am speaking
Yes, sir, you are
from
audible.
my grandson's iPad. Okay. So this Rani, this was wonderful talk indeed, and a comprehensive presentation you prepared. And 2-3 things I remember. See, I've seen Dada Bhagwan always positive, always. So many. One example you gave, I saw it for myself. That say if somebody asks, "Aapko bukhar aaya hai?" So he says, "No, bukhar is going out." Okay, the fever, no.
Yeah.
Do you have a fever? But in Hindi we call bukhar aaya. No, bukhar ja raha hai. Bukhar is going out. Okay, the fever is going out, not coming.
Yes.
Okay, in Gujarati, there was this terminology I heard him saying. And the next hour he was asked after he got a fracture in accident. No, he said, no, fracture happened 1 hour before. Now it is healing, as you already told this. I saw that. It's a great thing. So one thing comes to my mind about that boy's example you gave, right? That example indicates that the boy had an injury also. Now, these are two in this incident, but they are related. The boy got injured because he was hurt by the result. There may be connection, right? And mother has to see not everything in isolation. Secondly, the frame of mind, right? Then when you are talking to an 8 years old, you should respond from his frame of mind, no? The right is useless. Dada I used to refer to as a counter pulley, right? I give you example. So my son, when he was in first, I gave this example earlier also. Just he came cheerfully to the house and said, Daddy, I got 16th rank. Okay. Now you know 16th rank is not a great thing, no? But see, he's a 80 years old child, 9 years. Okay, I said, oh, such a great rank, no? Nobody in our family got such a great rank. Okay. There's certain things that you have to treat them, they are trivial, right? So these ranks and everything, they are not so much important, okay, for this age. So we should not make the children serious. We should not deprive them of the childhood pleasures also. Sometimes many adults try to make them prematurely serious, right? So this also affects them a lot, and indeed you will be also affected. So these are so many issues we have to see from the broader angle, if we see, and especially the matter of understanding the other's frame of mind. No, say it's a very great thing which I have observed in Dadaji, Kanu Dadaji both. They will be able to immediately refer to our frame of mind, right? Without imposing there. And it's a great art which we can achieve this and solve so many issues, right? Similarly, for our own self, no, we have to be kind to our own self also, right? Then only the positivity comes. If we are bitter to our own selves, only bitterness will be exhibited in our dealings with others. So that is also one thing which you have to see, that certain things are so trivial that nobody remembers. Later on, it has nothing. No, I told you that my son, no, I thought he got 16th rank. Now you see, he is of your age only, Rani. He traveled independently in 20 countries, you see. Okay. So now, what is the use of that 16th rank and all these things? Now, we now realize that so many things we thought they were so serious, they were not serious actually, right? So that is also one thing. Sometimes beyond your control, you get delayed. No, I remember one example in some discussions, it got delayed and it was already 11:30 in the night in Dada Bhagwan's presence. Okay. Then somebody said, oh, it's already 11:30, Dada. Dada said, it's a loss to the clock and not to you. Okay. So I've seen him say how you can enjoy the life. Okay. So the time reference, he said, it's a loss to the clock, not to you. Okay. Then you take to the heart, you feel next day also you'll feel sleepy if you take it to the heart. Especially he warned about the psychological effects. Say men and women both, we can try to learn coming out of psychological effects, our own auto-suggestions and even suggestions from outside and from media and everything. This will help us a lot in cultivating progressively the positive attitude. And lastly, if you have positive attitude, you will get such people only. That's another gift, right? So that positivity also gets reinforced, and you will have more and more positive experiences. And one can observe in one's own daily routine also that with this is a very useful outlook. Definitely, the greatest example is of Lord Krishna, right? You can never imagine a picture of Lord Krishna with a sulky face. No, never. Nobody can do it, you see. And he has spent all his life amidst all kinds of woes and troubles. But always he had this, right? So, and especially living in the presence. That is the great enlightened people have, and we can learn from this. Thank you, Rani, once again. You spared time despite your busy schedule, but I insisted that you should take this session.
I'm so glad, I was actually scheduled to be in Vietnam today. So I was actually thinking I wasn't going to do it. I just prayed. I really want to be able to do this, and it, let it happened that way. So by Dada's grace.
Yes, everything as if say you could not go to Vietnam, but you could help. Okay,
right.
There is not a unilateral incident. Okay,
Exactly.
No incident is unilateral. It has always, if something is negative, definitely something is positive. We find out. So very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chandrakantji.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. And Mr. Manish Trivedi ji has sent one message. Rani Madam, you consider the point that we should be positive towards nature, environment. Positive mindedness towards nature will save environment, right? And will save lives. Thinking positive about ourselves and others is no limit. Thank you very much, Manish sir, for your nice message.
Beautiful.
And we feel very grateful to Rani ma'am. You really managed very, very well. And thanks to science that this session will always be there, and it will be a guiding light for so many coming generation. Thank you very much. Have a very good time, and do not miss the next session, which will be economic activity and competition. Thank you very much, everyone. Please do take care. Very humbly, Jai Sachidanand to all of you.